Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Rabbi.
Rabbi.
We're learning Mishnah Yishkolim, Parak Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishnah Hey, Mishnah 5. Avabi Shamru, even though they said, even though the sages said in the previous Mishnah, Ein Mamashkanin Nashim Vavadim Uktanim, we do not force women, Gentile slaves, or minors, which according to the Bar Tanura meant under the age of 20. We don't force them to give a half shekel. They have no obligation to give a half shekel, and therefore we don't force them. Im shaklu, if they were to give a half shekel, we accept it from them, like we had yesterday by the Kohen. Even if they're not obligated, they can still donate. And the point is that when they do donate, they're not donating it as a private donation, but they're giving over that half shekel to the general half shekel fund, that communal fund from which to buy the communal sacrifices, and therefore it is acceptable. Next, if an idolater, if a non-Jew, or a kusi, who will explain what a kusi is, if they give a half shekel, we don't accept it from them. Now, means an idolater, a non-Jew. They are they do not participate in the communal sacrifices of the Jewish people, and therefore they don't give a half shekel. The half shekel is not accepted from non-Jews. It's based on a verse in the Torah. Now, the Kusim were actually a group of non-Jews who were brought to live in the land of Israel by Sancherib, the king of Ashur, after the 10 tribes were exiled. And we see and we learn in Tanakh how they were attacked by lions and they converted. And even after they converted, they were still not the most observant. And at a certain point of time, the sages decided that the Kusim, although they may have converted and they are Jews, but they cannot marry into the Jewish people. And therefore, in many ways, they were treated just like non-Jews. And this is one example. We do not accept a half shekel from them, because we treat them like non-Jews to keep them separate from the rest of the Jewish people. So that's the first halacha. The idolater and the kusi and the kusi, that shashakla, they gave a shekel and mekabel miyadim, we do not accept it from them. Next, the a mekabel miyadan, we also don't accept from a non-Jew or from a kusi. Kina yizavin, v'kina yizavas, v'kina yoldes. These are bird offerings that are brought by people who go through certain experiences, that because of what they've gone through, they have to bring a sacrifice at the end of that period. So the first one is a zav. A zav is a male, it's a man who had a certain type of emission from his body that makes him impure. When he goes through a purification process, and at the end of the purification process, he has to bring a pair of birds. A zava is a woman who discharges blood beyond her regular period of menstruating. She also, again, without going through all the details of it, she also has to bring bird offerings at the end of her being impure. When she wants to become a Torah, she wants to purify herself, she has these bird offerings to bring. The kina yoldais are bird offerings of women who give birth. Women who give birth are also automatically impure. And at a certain point of time, when they want to purify themselves, they have to bring a bird and an animal. If they can't afford it, it's 2 birds. In all these cases, we say if a idolater or a kusi want to bring any of these sacrifices, they may not bring them. We wouldn't accept it from them. So too, any sin offering, guilt offerings, these are sacrifices brought to atone for certain sins. Here too, a idolater and a kusi would not, if they would try to bring it, we would not accept it from them. But when we talk about nedarim and nedavos, which they translate as vow offerings and gift offerings, that we do accept from them. Now, to explain what a neder, a vow offering is we're talking about, again, an animal. We're talking about a sacrifice that you're not obligated to bring. It's a voluntary sacrifice. When you volunteer to bring a sacrifice, when you accept upon yourself to bring a sacrifice, you can do it in 2 ways. You can make a neder, which means a person says, I accept upon myself to bring a ola, burnt offering, or accept upon myself to bring a shlomim, a peace offering. Ola is completely burnt. Shlomim is some parts are burnt, some parts are eaten by the owner, by the person who brought the sacrifice. And if you basically put it upon yourself and you say, I accept upon myself to bring an ola, I accept upon myself to bring a shlomim, that's called a neder. That's an obligation that you put upon yourself. Then there are times, and then at some point of time, when you fulfill your obligation to bring the sacrifice, you designate an animal to be your sacrifice. Then there's an adava, which they call a gift offering. That means that the vow that I made was on a specific animal. I sanctify that animal as an ola. I sanctify that animal as a shlomim. And that's what I have to bring. The practical difference between the two is that if, let's say, the animal that you designated in the case of an neder, when you set upon yourself to bring a sacrifice, I have to bring an ola. You designate an animal to do that for, and the animal dies. Do you still have to bring another one? Yes, you do. You took upon yourself a promise to bring an ola. You wanted to use this animal. The animal died. Now you got to find another animal to fulfill your vow. But if, let's say, the entire vow was on that animal should be an ola. That animal should be a shlomim. And the animal dies, you're exempt because the entire vow was only regarding that animal. So those are nedarim and nedavis. So we say that nedarim and nedavis we will accept from a idolater or from a kusi. And all of these exemptions, what's included, what they accept from them, what we can't accept from them, they're all derived from verses in the Torah. But this is the point. The point right now is, and the Mishna is going to again, repeat this, is that the things that were basically obligatory, right? When you bring any of those, when a zav, a zava, a yoledes, when they bring their sacrifices, they're obligated to bring it, or else they're never going to become. Unless they don't want to ever become tar again. But they need to bring that in order to become tar. The sin offerings and the guilt offerings are things that you're obligated to bring. These are the sacrifices that the idolaters are, and the Kusians, who we treat like idolaters, are exempted from. But the nedarim and nedavis are things that are voluntary that we will accept. So zeha klal, this is the rule. Kol shenidav v'nidav, anything that you make a vow about, or you make a gift, or you make a vow of a gift about, the kabbalah miyadin. Anything that could be either vowed, meaning you accept it upon yourself to bring, or you can gift the thing itself. You can make a vow on the thing itself. But again, it's all voluntary. Mekabel miyadim, we accept from them. Kol she'ein nidav v'nidav, ein mekabel miyadim. But whatever is not vowed or donated, meaning they are obligatory, we do not accept from them. Now, it's interesting they bring down what more we spoke about animals that are nedarim and nedavis that can be basically voluntarily donated. Are there other things? The fact that the Mishna says anything that can be donated, we accept from them. Is that what else is there anything more than just animals included in them? And the answer is yes, there is. This comes now to include bird offerings, mincha offerings, meal offerings, wine, right, and a sachim, elevation, frankincense, that's levite, that's a certain spice, there was a certain spice that was burned, and wood for the altar. These are all voluntary offerings, and all these things can be accepted from a guy, or from a non-Jew, from an idolater, or from a kusi. V'cheinu mefurish al yedei Ezra, and so too is explicitly stated in the book of Ezra, Shenemar, as it says, and the context of this pasuk is, we know that Ezra HaSofer led the Jewish people back from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael to rebuild the second Beis Hamikdash. And it was at that point of time that the Kusim who lived in the Eretz Yisrael they volunteered to partner with the Jewish people to build the second Beis Hamikdash. And what was the response? Shenemar, as it states, Lo yilachem v'lanu livnais bayis Elokeinu. It's not for you and for us to build a house for our God. The Kusim were offering, we also want to serve Hashem, so we'll build a Beis Hamikdash with you. And Ezra said, basically, no thanks. It is not for you and for us, meaning not together to build a Beis Hamikdash. It's for us alone. So now we see that when it came to building the Beis Hamikdash, that we did not accept even the Kusim to come along with us, or the more so idolaters if they wanted to do that. But how does that relate back to what we're discussing? We weren't discussing building the Beis Hamikdash. We were discussing bringing sacrifices. That was our discussion. So what exactly are we trying to be shown from this pasuk? So some learned the following, very interesting explanation I saw. And that is that, the half shekels are collected from all Jewish males, let's say 20 and up, and they're put in a chamber, in a special room in the Beis Hamikdash. That's where all the money is put. And a couple of times a year, a Kohen goes in, takes out some money from the whole fund, and use that for the sacrifices. There's going to be extra money left. There's going to be extra money left. What do they do with that money? The answer is they use that money to repair the Beis Hamikdash. Anything these repairs is paid from that money. So some learn that since we see that Ezra didn't allow the Kusim to contribute in the building of the Beis Hamikdash, that means when it comes to the upkeep of the building, the upkeep of the building, we don't accept from a Kusi. And the leftover money of the half shkalim goes towards the repair of the Beis Hamikdash. So if we see that we didn't accept their participation in building the Beis Hamikdash, that means we wouldn't accept they wouldn't accept their money to repair the Beis Hamikdash either. And we know that the leftover the shekels went for that. And so since we wouldn't include them in the repairing of the Beis Hamikdash, which is what the leftover money of the shkalim would go for, then that's a support to say that we don't accept the shkalim from them at all. Because since we see that we didn't allow them to participate in the building of the Beis Hamikdash, and thus not in the repair either, the leftover money of the shkalim went for the repair of the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore it's support to say that we would not accept the half shekel from them. Half shekels are also towards repair of the Beis Hamikdash. We see that Ezra didn't want to accept the participation in the building of the Beis Hamikdash. So that again is a support to say that we wouldn't accept the half shekel from them. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Did they have a committee?